Premier, it seems like you're trying to perhaps correct perceptions that the budget doesn't cut as deep as you're saying it does, or it doesn't tax as much as others are saying it does. I guess why do you think Albertans haven't been too overly excited about this budget since it's been released?
Well, I think Albertans support the budget. I mean, that's what I hear everywhere I go. That's what I hear from my colleagues. But I mean, in some quarters, people have taken the first year of a 3-year plan and measured the budget by that first year. I was very clear from the outset that we were not producing a 1-year budget. We were producing a 10-year fiscal plan, and that the changes we needed to make, we've consciously chosen to make them over 3 years. And I think people need to see what that looks like in a 3-year context.
There was also some talk about corporate tax increases. That's what Albertans had shown they wanted in the survey. The government has quoted a figure, I think, from Jack Mintz in terms of it costing 9,000 jobs per percent. Right. Is there any other data that the government has besides Mr. Mintz on corporate tax increases? It's something that the public clearly wanted to see and didn't see in this budget.
Well, I mean, Jack Mintz has spoken up about this. I mean, others are speaking up. I know the Calgary Chamber of Commerce published an op-ed yesterday. I've seen other documents that are circulating from different industry groups, but I think these are we learned over the last 25 years that increasing corporate income taxes and making ourselves uncompetitive is not the way to increase investment and jobs. And what's happened over time is the tax advantage that Alberta used to have on corporate taxes has been winnowed away, specifically by British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Ontario, who've all brought their corporate taxes down to Alberta's. All, in a couple of cases, it being NDP premiers that did that brought their taxes down because they knew that they couldn't compete with Alberta in terms of jobs and investment. And so at this point, our corporate tax rate is 10%. I think BC is 11%. As I recall, Ontario is 11.5%. So we think we're at a circumstance where if we start to increase corporate taxes at this point, we'll lose that competitive edge.
The budget, on first glance, seems to let both sides down. Don't have a cut as deep as you hinted it would be, and tax hikes that people wanted to see haven't materialized. So how do you reconcile the budget with what people wanted or what people expected?
Well, clearly there are tough choices to be made at the end of the day. Myself as the Premier and Robin Campbell as the Minister of Finance had to make the call, right? We heard many different opinions through the budget survey, but also through consultations that we did across the province. There's a lot of different points of view on what we should do. But in terms of the two questions you're asking about, firstly, the size of the reductions in the government are exactly what we spoke about. They're being done over 3 years instead of over 1 year. Fair enough. We can talk about that. There's a reason for doing that. But the order of magnitude changes that we're talking about are exactly what we've been speaking about over the last, the last 4 months.
Do you suppose the $2,500 number that's being peddled around also includes tobacco tax, liquor markups? Yeah. On average, the average smoker, the average drinker, plus all the new fees the fee increases that were instituted?
Hey, the tax on a bottle of beer is 7 cents. You have to drink a lot of beer to go from $161 to $2,500 at 7 cents a pop, right? So I don't think so. I think it's misinformation that's being spread.
What are you hearing from people about the tax and fee hike? And what are you hearing from people, you or your people are hearing from people about the absence of a corporate tax increase? So on those two, they seem to be two sticking points for at least some people. What are you hearing as feedback on those two issues, the tax and fee hike and the absence of a corporate tax hike?
Well, Rick, I think it's fair to say most people I hear from think that the budget has struck the right balance, that people want their frontline services maintained. No one likes taxes, me included, but people recognize that we've had a collapse of our oil revenue in this province measured in this year $7 billion, and that we have to take some steps. And so, you know, people recognize that we have to deal with the issue, and, you know, everybody's prepared to shoulder some part of of dealing with it. So you know, what we hear is that people by and large accept that we've struck the right balance, and that these dollars that we're talking about, as shown on this blue chart, you know, for all the advantages we have as Albertans, these are modest.
Question on the 10-year plan.
Right.
Could you understand how Albertans would be cynical or skeptical of a plan that long term when you look at the past 5 years of the PC government? You know, different premiers, different goals and aspirations. Even the last 8 months since you've taken the seat, things have changed dramatically. I guess why should people have confidence that within the next 2-3 years we wouldn't be sitting across from another premier, another new 10-year plan?
Well, you know, ultimately that's up to Albertans, right, in terms of who the premier is. Yeah. But I hope people, you know, I hope people have confidence in me. I came back into public life. I didn't expect we'd be dealing with a collapse of oil prices, but, you know, I certainly had strong views about how we've been managing our finances and the fact that we've not taken a long-term perspective on things. And you know, I think we need to. I understand how Albertans would look at it and say, geez, we've been through a lot. There've been different governments, but you know, I'm passionate about what we're doing here and having a long-term plan. I think with the circumstances we're in now, we better have a plan. And you know, this is not all about 10 years. The first 3 years are very specific in terms of what we're saying needs to be done. But you know, our province is not built around $50 oil, and so we better have a plan as to how we're going to get through this and maintain our AAA credit rating, be fiscally responsible, and you know, this represents a lot of work, and it's the best we've been able to do to respond to what Albertans are telling us.
You talked about Albertans will want to have a say on the budget. When will we get a chance to have that say on the budget?
Well, we'll see what happens in the days ahead, but you know, the discussion about whether we should have an election or not, you know, these are difficult times for us as a province. This budget has involved tough choices, and I think Albertans rightfully should have a say.
You've been talking about the budget in the House. I guess why are you still considering this, and why not wait until 2016? Why not let the budget and some of the impacts of it be felt until the legislative date?
Well, we need an election sometime within the next year. That's clear. There has to be an election within the next year. The government has just brought down a budget that has involved tough choices, and I think people are entitled to a say in terms of what they think about it and whether we struck the right balance. You know, I think it's as simple as that. Nobody expected that the province would be in these circumstances when I became the premier, and you know, it's involved tough choices. We've tried to strike the right balance, and I think people should have a say in terms of whether we have or haven't.